Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well and your preparations are going well as well. So we'll start with the monthly current affairs for the month of October 2025. Okay. So as always, we'll start with the news that needs to be covered in the month of October 2025. Okay. So the first news is regarding NCRB report. NCRB is basically National Crime Report Bureau. This is for the year 2023. Okay. So there is a surge in that. Then 10 years of SDG. SDGs are also always important. SDG is Sustainable Development Goal. Then Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine 2025. Then there is a Supreme Court judgment on surrogacy. So we'll see that whether the age bar is retrospective or not. Okay. Then RBI governor urges global central banks to promote CBDCs over stable coins. Now, stable coins is basically private. Okay. And CBDCs are central. Its name is Central Bank Digital Currency. Okay. So he urges to promote these over stable coins, which is somewhat crypto, okay, and private in nature. Then there is again Supreme Court judgment. Supreme Court recommends a committee for national equal opportunity policy for transgender persons. Then there is Kafala system abolished by Saudi Arabia, and what is the impact of it to the Indians or the migrants. Okay. So we'll see the news one by one now. Okay. So our first news is NCRB's report on crime in India 2023. Okay. So it was released in 30th September 2025 and around 6.24 million cognizable crimes occurred in year 2023. Okay. This is a surge of 7.2% as compared to 2022. Now, what are cognizable offences? I hope you all read it in your criminal law classes. But cognizable offences is when they are basically of serious nature where the police doesn't require a warrant to arrest a person. Okay. Now, crime rate is basically around 450 per lakh per 1 lakh. Okay. Now, on an average, in every 5 seconds, a crime occurs or is committed in India. Okay. That is very bad. But I don't know whether we are improving or not. But the search shows that we are not improving. So the population is also increasing, but that doesn't mean the crime has to increase. Okay. There has to be strict adherence to the criminal laws. Now, traditional violent crimes declined. Okay. Such as murder. There is a decline in murder. There is a decline in rape. While economic and traffic offences rose. Economic and traffic offences means there is a violation of traffic rules. There is economic means there are more occurrence of theft, robbery, okay, burglary, etc. Now, cyber crimes are also increasing. As we know in our WhatsApp on day-to-day basis, some message one day or other comes that please click on the link and you will be awarded with 50,000 or 50 lakhs, something like that. So don't get trapped into that. Okay. Though the companies are working on it, basically Jio, Airtel, they are coming up with some ideas, but still the cyber crimes are increasing. Okay. Which is 31.2% in 2023, and there are total of around 86,000 cases occurred in the year 2023, majorly linked to fraud and cheating. This is fraud means financial fraud. Okay. Now in metropolitan cities, Delhi is first. Okay. So crimes in Delhi are basically a story in itself, that Delhi reported the highest number of cases among the metropolitan cities. Okay. Overall crime increased by around 11%, and theft is the single biggest share. As I said, economic offences, so theft will always be included in that. Okay. Now, reflecting scale plus reporting. Women cases are increased by 0.7%, so we'll say around 1%, but around in that 0.7%, there are cruelty by husband or relatives surge of in that 0.7%, around 30% includes these crimes. What? Cruelty by husband or the relatives of the husband. Okay. Now, children cases also increased by around 10%, 9.2% to be precise, and large share under POXO. Okay, POXO is for children. Okay, Juvenile Justice Court is included in it, indicating both risk and improved reporting. Now, SCs in case of SC there is marginal rise, but in case of STs there is sharp rise of around 29%. So we are not moving to our goal of basically discrimination. This is clear violation of Article 15. That's why the crimes are increasing, okay, against them, okay, with spike linked in covering to ethnic conflict like we saw in Manipur, okay. The Manipur, there was a precedent rule after that, okay. Now, about NCRB, so it was established in year 1986. It was based on Tandon Committee, okay. There was a report by Tandon Committee, okay. National Police Commission, MHA, okay. Task Force, Ministry of Home Affairs Task Force under the Ministry of Home Affairs, okay. Now, India's National Repository of Crime and Criminal Data to aid investigation and policy, okay. Core system, basically this is not important as this is IT backbone or basically the checks and balances type. This will not be asked, okay. Now, crimes in India, flagship publications are Crimes in India, Accidental Deaths in Suicide, Prison Statics, India, okay. So, we see every now and then that a report is being released by them, okay. Now, 10 years of SDGs. Now, this is very important because we are moving closely towards the 2030 or 2040 goals, okay, to complete, to basically get rid of poverty, improve the health, improve the education, okay. These are basically our first 4 goals, okay. Now, in September 2025 marks as 10 years since, this is basically 25 to 27 September when the report was released, when the target was set in 2015, okay. 25th to 20 September, there was a meeting in the New York, okay. 10 years since UN members adopted the 2030 agenda with the 17 SDGs and 169 targets, okay. So, there are 17 sustainable goals and 169 targets to be completed by the year 2030, which is just so we have basically just 5 years left for that, and we are seeing the data in the crime news that we saw that how we are basically improving, or I don't know whether we are improving or not, to complete this 2030 goal by 2030, okay. Now, definition is basically, so sustainable goals is basically we have to complete our needs and not risk the future, okay. So, that's what the meaning says, that sustainable development means meeting present needs without compromising future generation, okay. This was basically held in Brundtland report, and without compromising the needs of future generation means, that's why we need the goals. That's why we saw in the news every now and then to save the climate, to provide better health facilities, to educate our children, to educate our siblings, okay. That's why the goals are set without compromising the need for future, okay. Save fossil fuels, okay. Now, SDG India Index, Niti Aayog's composite tool ranking state or UTs on SDG progress, latest edition 2023 or 2024 was also released, okay. Now, they are basically going local, okay. So, in the rural areas, basically, that's why panchayats are now playing a big part in showing that how we are improving and what is being done, okay. That's why we saw the news in the last month, Kerala's urbanization goal, okay. So, we are moving towards it. I'm not saying that we are not moving, but the growth has to be rapid, okay, provided the resources we have, okay. Localization, Panchayat Advancement Index, okay, launched to track 2.5 lakhs plus gram panchayats on the localized SDG theme, and there is basically district focus. As I said, we are going local, so panchayat and district are always involved. So, aspirational district program framed as SDG localization at district level, and India has presented voluntary nations review in 2017, 2020 and 2023 that how we are moving towards the goal of 2030 to be achieved. Okay. Now, as I said, the first 4 SDGs are important. First SDG is basically no poverty. Okay. Now, we improved in it, and around 135 million people exited multidimensional poverty through by 2015 to 2021 between, okay, per Niti Aayog's MPI, okay. But multidimensional poverty means they did not get rid of poverty as of now, but at least they have a 2-time meal to basically fulfill their needs, okay. We don't know about their home, they just have 2-time meal per day, okay. Now, that's what they got rid of, okay. Now, SDG 2 is zero hunger. Undernourishment around 13.7% per SOFI 2024. SDG 3 is health. Maternal mortality rate fell from 130 to 88, which is good, okay, in 2022 per SRS, okay. Then as we talk about education, then adjusted NER at primary 99%, near universal primary participation. Now, we see that these 4 are basically the basic need of people. That's why they are put in the first 4 goals. So, so that we can basically achieve these 4 first. Now, get rid of poverty, get rid of zero hunger, provide better health facilities, and provide better education. These are basically the pillars for any country to grow or the people to grow. Because if your country doesn't have the poverty, doesn't have any people, any person who sleeps basically hungry, they have the better health facilities, free health camps are provided, and free government schools are being made to a level which can finally meet the private education. Then only a country can grow with rapid pace, okay. Otherwise, it will always be constant. This year the data is basically improving because our resources are also improving. It is no shock that next year reports there will be decline, okay, because the growth has to be rapid, okay. The actions of the government basically every action of the government must focus on these 4. That's when we will achieve the SDG goals, okay. Then adoption happened in 25th to 27th September 2015, as I said, in the UN summit in New York, okay. Architect 19 goals, 17 goals and 169 targets. We already saw that, okay. Now, there is Nobel Prize in Physiology and or Medicine 2025. There are other Nobel Prizes as well. This is important because it is connected to immunity, and this might prevent or might give a treatment for cancer, okay. That's why this becomes the most important. You guys have to read the other Nobel Prizes as well. So please take a look in that. But the physiology and medicine is the most important. Laureates are Mary E. Branco from USA, Fred Ramsdell from USA, and Shimon Sakaguchi from Japan. Okay. This was announced on 6th October 2025 by the Nobel Assembly for discoveries concerning peripheral immune tolerance. Okay. Peripheral immune tolerance, so that tissues or the cells might fight themselves, okay, or they can grow by themselves, okay. Now, they study basically how the immune system distinguishes self versus non-self outside central lymphoid organs, mechanisms that prevent self-attack in peripheral tissues, okay. Now, peripheral tolerance is essential to keep immune responses in check in normal physiology, okay. In 1995, Sakaguchi identified SD4 plus SD25 plus regulatory T cells. These T cells are also important in this, play also important role in this Nobel Prize, okay. T cell that suppress immune response and help maintain self-tolerance, okay. So that tissues can grow and fight themselves, okay. So this might help, okay. We are not sure on it, but this discovery might help treat the cancer or the health issues related to our immunity or the guts, okay. Now, scurfy mouse basically in 2001 discovered that mutation in a fork head or winged helix protein, which we called FOXP3 or scruffin, causes fetal lymphoproliferation identified by the Branco et al. Okay. Also include Ramsdale as well. So they identified it, and it was identified by the Branco, who is also a laureate in the Nobel Prize. Okay. Now human link is basically FOXP3 mutations cause IPEX syndrome, which is immune dysregulation in humans. Okay. So this causes the problem, and they are basically working on it. So how it can be treated and help improve our immunity. Okay. Now integration later work showed FOXP3 is required for the track development of functions connecting FOXP3 to the track mechanism of peripheral tolerance. Now there is Supreme Court judgment on that surrogacy age bar is not retrospective. Okay. So this came in 2022. So before it, this judgment is not retrospective workable, but after that there are some guidelines given by the Supreme Court of age guidelines of how the process through should go, and whether the child biological child basically has all the rights for the people for the parents who are basically giving the other person the basically permission to have the children. Okay. So what happened on 9th October, the Supreme Court ruled that age limit in Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021 do not apply retrospectively. Okay. So couple who initiated surrogacy before 25th January 2022, including those who had created frozen embryos, are exempted from the Act's age bar. So they are exempted. Okay. They are exempted from the Act's age bar. That's why it is not retrospective. So people before that, people before 25 January or 25 January 2025 who have initiated their surrogacy, okay, they are not included in the guidelines provided by the Supreme Court. Okay. Now in Arun Muthuvel versus Union of India, it was said that the judgment basically emphasized presumption against retrospectivity. That's what court cited to deliver this judgment. Okay. Now there is protection for pre-existing cases. Steps taken before 25th January 2022, which is embryo freezing in 2021, remain valid despite later age limit. Okay. Now it is whenever we talk about surrogacy, it is always related to right to life. Okay. Article 15 also comes discrimination, that whether you are basically allowing one person and basically declining the request of the other person. Okay. So the court acknowledged reproductive autonomy and vested right. Couples similarly placed may seek relief. Okay. Now decision limited to those who had already begun the surrogacy process prior to the law's commencement. Now it is limited to those who had already begun the process. Okay. So the process had begun before 25th January 2022. If they initiated the process, then it will not apply to them. Otherwise, the age bar will apply to them. Okay. Age bar, we'll see what is the age bar. Okay. Now, its objective is to regulate surrogacy, allow only altruistic surrogacy. Commercial surrogacies are prohibited. Okay. So surrogacy can't happen by providing the money to the other person. It has to be altruistic. Okay. So intending couples eligibility is basically, okay, intending couples eligibility is Indian citizen legally married. So wife's age is between 23 to 50 must happen for the surrogacy we are talking about. Husband's age must be 26 to 55, and generally no surviving biological or adopted child. With no surviving biological or adopted child, then only they are eligible to have surrogacy. Okay. Now surrogate eligibility is basically married women. For married women is 25 to 35 years with at least one biological child of her own. Okay. Legal status of the child born through surrogacy is deemed the biological child of the intending couple. That's what I was saying at the first instance, with full rights. Okay. So the intending couple who are basically giving their embryos, they have the full right over the children. It is their child with full rights. They have the right over the children, okay, not the surrogate mother, okay. Now effective date of the act is 25th January 2022, with start point for the determining non-retrospective application of age limit, okay. Now there's RBI governor. Who is our RBI governor? Okay, his name is Sanjay Malhotra. He basically pointed out that we should give preference to CBDCs, which is central bank digital currency, over stable coins, which is somewhat basically crypto, okay. So RBI governor asked central banks to prioritize SBDCs over stable coins amid new global rules, okay. Examples are included like South Korea and US, okay. Idea is that public money in digital form, which is public money, okay, CBDCs, can deliver efficiency and trust without relying on private token issuers. So public money can basically provide you that trust that you need before investing your money, okay, and basically taking any step, any financial step towards your life, okay. Now CBDCs are basically digital legal tenders issued by central banks, a direct claim on the state. So if you have any conflict, you can file the case against the state itself, okay. So when you file the case against the state, it will at least give you the basically that profit that you have your money safe, or your currency, digital currency safe, because the state is involved in it, the government is involved in it. Whereas when we talk about the stable coin, it is private crypto token pegged to money asset, not legal tender, and value security depend on the issuer reserves and regulations. Now they might have their own terms and conditions, which might lead you to a conflict which you don't want to get involved in, okay. That's why CBDCs are asked to be preferred over stable coins, okay. Now sovereign banking and safety is basically central bank liability, okay. Liability will be on central bank, so you can directly file a case against central bank, okay. Predictable convertibility and basically natively integration with monetary policy, AML and CFT, and prudential oversight. Potential for instant low cost domestic and cross border settlement. Stable risk control, there is very stable risk control. Avoid run opacity risk tied to private reserve management, okay. Because whenever you get involved with a private entity, especially with respect to financial things, their terms and conditions differ very much from the public body, okay. So you might need to go to a file a case, go through their rules and regulations, go through their terms and conditions, what are the laws, whether the jurisdiction is there or not in the first place, where the jurisdiction is when the conflict occurs, where do you need to file your case, okay. So there are many issues arises when you get involved in especially monetary policy, basically from the other country, okay, because they are private entities, private crypto tokens, okay. Now what e-rupee actually is: the digital rupee is issued by RBI, same unit as INR, and legal tender with final settlement, okay. So e-rupee is basically government authorized, okay. That's why it is issued by RBI, okay. Now how you hold or use it? Retail, in retail, okay. RBI authorized wallet, pay, P2P or P2M, offline pilots for low connectivity areas, or you can do it wholesale as well, interbank and government security settlement rails, okay. Now how this differ from a stable coin in practice? This is only India's view, okay. Now issuer and liability, RBI's liability in case of conflict, okay. So it is RBI's liability in case of e-rupee, okay. But in case of stable coin, it is private issuer liability. So the person who is issuing you the basically stable coin will have the liability, okay. So you have to go to court or claim in the tort, or basically out of court settlement. There will be out of court settlement, whatever is provided in your terms and condition in the jurisdiction part, okay. Now legal status of e-rupee is it is legal tender, whereas stable coin is not legal tender in India, okay. Now value breaking is e-rupee is sovereign money, whereas stable coin is reserve basket held by the issuer or custodian. Settlement of e-rupee is on ledger central bank money, and stable coin is private ledger, redemption convertibility dependent on the issuer's term. Okay, so again the terms and condition. So can you see the risk involved here? There are so much risk involved here on the when we talk about the stable coin. Okay, because it is a private entity and not a legal tender in India. Now, there is also Supreme Court judgment on National Equal Opportunity Policy for Transgender Persons. So there is a talk going on whether the act that is provided with is working well or not, and whether there is okay. Whenever there is a transgender person renews the Article 15, Article 14, and Article 20 becomes the most important articles. Okay, there is always discrimination. There is not equal opportunity. Sorry, Article 21 and right to life and personal liberty. Okay. Now, Supreme Court forms a committee to draft a national equal opportunity policy for transgender person, flagging gaps in implementation of the Transgender Person Protection of Rights Act 2019. Okay. So you need to flag the gaps that are there in the already provided act named Transgender Persons Protection of Right Act 2019. Okay. There is a case Jane Kaushik versus Union of India. The court noted persistent discrimination and directed systematic measures and cited that case while recommending to make a policy on for transgender persons. Okay. Now, this can be access linked to ID benefits under the 2019 Act tied to certificate ID, exclusion and delay. Okay. Now, there is reasonable accommodation gap, barriers in education, garima ghesh, shelters, access and public space. Okay. So basically violation of Article 15. Okay. Now, there are many administrative lapses as well. Many states haven't set up transgender protection cells. Okay. So violation of Article 14 and 21. Stigma and identity hurdles. DM based certification undermines self identification and social bias basically persist anyways. So transgender person is identity is not matching sex assigned at birth, right to self perceived gender, DM issued certification of the identity. Okay, so there are three ways. Now, anti discrimination is basically prohibit discrimination in education, employment, healthcare, housing, public services, but this is not implemented at all. That because it is provided in the act, but that's why the policy is being recommended to fulfill that gap. Okay, so that they must be free from discrimination. Okay. Now, institutional mechanism, National Council for Transgender Person for coordination and policy oversight. There are many important judgments such as NALSA, SC recognized transgender persons as third gender, affirmed self-identification and constitutional protection. There is National Portal online application for certification of identity or ID card without physical interference, and Smile and Garima Gray, which is for the living. Okay, and life support. So MSJE scheme for livelihood and rehabilitation. Garima Ghe is basically shelters for housing and medical care and support. Okay. Now, Kafala system abolished by Saudi Arabia. Now we see, especially from the people of South, okay, many persons go to Saudi Arabia to work there. Okay, they are called migrants or the people there. The Kafala system basically includes those people when they go Saudi Arabia. Okay, so Saudi Arabia has formally abolished the Kafala system or sponsorship system, shifting to contract-based model under Vision 2030. Announcement in June 2025. Report came in October 2025. Expected to impact 13 million migrant workers, including 2.6 million Indians. Okay. So I just said people from South. I said mostly. Okay. Not only the people of South. Okay. No, nothing against them. Then meaning of Kafala is basically sponsorship workers legal status tied to an employer kafil. Okay. So the employer is called as kafil. And the employee is called as Kafala. Now, see, there's a movie, please see it after CLAT, which is based in this only. It is somewhere the boatman or something. Okay, so a person from south goes in the Arabs basically in the desert. He got lost and held as a kafala basically by the kafil, and how he survived 15 years there in that place and how he got rid of that. So it includes the struggle that a person might go through by working in this system. Okay, now key features are that's why they are now shifting to a contract based model under the vision 2030. Okay, key features are employer control over job changes, exist pre-entry exit, residency permission often required to change jobs or travels. Okay, now result is enabled exploitation and limited access to justice, widely criticized as akin to modern day slavery. That's why modern day slavery, its own struggles are there. No. There is obviously human rights violation. Reports of forced labor are included day by day. They are increasing day by day. Okay. Delayed wages and abusive practices under kafala. Okay. Passport seizure also happens. Okay. So employers frequently confiscated passport and restricted movement. They seize their passport and they take it with they take them with them, and they basically force the labor. That's why forced labor is also there. Okay. Now, uneven protection. Earlier reforms, example 2021, excluded some categories. Right groups caution that effective abolition depends on the enforcement. Now, job mobility is basically workers can change employers without prior sponsorship permission under the new contract based system. Okay, so this is good step that it is contract based. So workers can change employers without prior sponsor permission. Okay, under the new contract system, travel and residency, exit and re-entry no longer requires employer's consent, greater autonomy over the legal status. Okay, so the bonded labor or the forced labor will now be removed to a greater extent. Okay, that's why the vision 2030 is there for them. Okay, for Indian abroad, reforms expected to benefit 2.6 million Indian workers in Saudi Arabia. So it is great for our people. Okay, now implementation watches. NGOs note reforms must be fully enforced to end kafala like control in practice because it involves bonded labor and the forced labor. Okay, so now this marks the end of your October 2025 most important current affairs. I hope you all are doing well. Please keep reading the newspaper. Please revise the current affairs. Don't shift to a new thing or a new basically current affair source. Follow what you are following for the year long process and just keep building yourself and revise again and again. Okay. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next video.